Alright guys, What If Season 2 has been done for about a week now, and I have some thoughts. So basically what's going to happen in this video is I'm going to go through my non-spoiler thoughts, so that way if you haven't seen Season 2 of What If yet, you're maybe on the fence about it, you can hear what I thought without getting spoiled. And then I'm going to dive into my spoiler thoughts, what I loved, what I didn't love. Those will be relatively short because after I give my overall thoughts, I'm going to do the episode ranking immediately after this. So the episode ranking will not be a separate video like I originally intended because, well, Echo is coming out. So yeah, basically it's going to be a review and it's going to be an episode ranking. So let's just go with it. So first, the non-spoiler thoughts. So I really enjoyed Season 2 of What If, maybe even more than I enjoyed Season 1. Season 1 felt like taking, an MCU movie or two, maybe three, and mixing things up, where Season 2 really did not feel that way. It felt more like taking these characters and putting them into situations that they maybe would not have necessarily found themselves in within the MCU. So it's not necessarily, oh, we're taking this movie or these movies and we're changing things and this is what it's going to look like now. It's more like taking characters and throwing them into situations and having them do their thing. Don't get me wrong though, there are parallels, some very clear parallels to like MCU movies, but it's more of scenes versus entire episode plots. Similarly to Season 1, where most of the episodes feel episodic until the end, Season 2 really felt like that as well, where it's very episodic until the end. But unlike Season 1, where maybe you were able to pick and choose episodes to watch and you'd be fine skipping some, Season 2 isn't necessarily that way. Because while the episodes are very episodic, there are certain things that happen within the episodes, usually to characters, that carry over into other episodes. So if you missed an episode, you might be sitting there wondering, like, well, what's up with that character? Like, how did this happen? Like, when did this happen? And it's not necessarily a total confusion. It's just like, you're probably going to be sitting there going, well, that's weird. What's that about? So yeah, it really feels like you have to watch almost all the episodes or risk somewhat being confused about certain things that happen with characters and certain things that happen with events, all that type of thing. Now, do you have to have watched every MCU project and remember every detail from it? No. No, not in the slightest. Because Season 2 very much takes these characters versus movie plots, you could literally go in more blind into Season 2 than you did with Season 1. Because if you haven't seen the MCU, you get these characters, you get them in sort of weird, bizarre situations, and you get to have fun watching them. If you have seen the MCU, well, these characters, you get to see them be put in weird, fun situations and watch them and have fun with them. So there really is no major difference other than, being familiar with these characters on some level. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. If you feel like watching the entirety of the MCU, be my guest. But if you don't want to watch the entirety of the MCU, maybe you did watch the MCU, but you haven't rewatched a lot of the older stuff in a very long time, it's fine. It's fine. You could literally go into this completely in the dark about the MCU. Watching season 1 of What If, though, would help in a lot of cases. But, yeah, aside from that, watching the entirety of the MCU, not really a thing. So now I'm going to go into my spoiler thoughts. So if you haven't seen season 2 of What If yet, go watch it. Come back here. You know the drill. So, starting with what I loved. The first thing I loved is something that I wasn't sure I was entirely going to love, and that is the episode drop every day versus one a week or an all episode drop. It was a lot of fun just getting, you know, a brand new episode every day. And honestly, it kind of felt like an all episode drop, but better because it wasn't all at once, but it wasn't wait a week for another episode. It was wait a day. And I wasn't sure I was going to like it. I was like very overwhelmed by it when it was shown in the trailer that it was going to be 9 days, 9 episodes. I'm like, this is going to be a lot. But I really enjoyed it. I think it was a lot of fun. I think instead of doing all episode drops, maybe do this. Marvel, I'm looking at you. Echo's doing an all episode drop, and oh boy. But, you know, maybe if you want to do an all episode drop, consider doing a 1 a day drop. But that's just me, maybe. I don't know. But I really enjoyed that. Another thing that I loved was the fact that some of the episodes gave us like a tease for potential more episodes next season, which, by the way, we are getting, and I am very happy about that. Particularly, there was like, do I want to call it a tag at the end of the episode, where Hela finds the 10 rings and everything like that, and Hela and Wenwu like go and they find Thanos and young Gamora, and I'm like, that's a thread I want pulled. I want to see where that goes, because this is either going to end very well or very bad, and I kind of want to know. But yeah, that all depends if they want to pull on those threads. Because last season gave us some tags, I guess. In particular, one that really irked me was the Peter Quill, you know, meeting up with Ego at the end of episode 2, which is where T'Challa becomes Star-Lord. I'm like, y'all weren't even in this episode, and here you are. And I thought maybe we were going to pull on that this season, and we kind of did, but it wasn't like teenage young adult Peter Quill. It was child Peter Quill, so it wasn't even really the same thing. And I'm like, so why are you giving us this, right? And so I feel like the tags at the end of this season, are either going to be picked up next season, or it's just going to be like, well, you write your own story for this, and, you know, maybe I will. But, yeah, I mean, I hope that they pull on those strings, but I don't know if they will. So, but I really did enjoy the fact that there is the potential for more episode teases, I guess. What am I talking about? I don't know. I really loved that, but. And lastly, what I loved is that we are getting a season 3. Okay? We are getting a season 3 of What If. That makes me so happy. Honestly, What If can continue forever. I honestly don't care at this point. Like, What If could outlive the entirety of the MCU and I would be fine with it. Like, it's just so much fun getting these characters in different situations, and it's great. I love it. And I'm very happy that we're getting a season 3. Hopefully we get a whole lot more. Just saying. Yeah. Now on to what I didn't like. The relatively short episodes. So basically all of the episodes averaged at about half an hour, give or take a little bit. A lot of the episodes I wanted to see more. You know, I was just having so much fun with the entirety of the episode, and I'm like, I want to see more, I want to see more. And then some of them, it was like, okay, well, you are painfully slow. Oh, we're picking up speed. Oh, we're ending. And it's like, no, like, let's keep going. And then others, it was like, well, you're just taking way too long, and I kind of want you to be one of the shorter ones. So there was a lot of mixed emotions with it, but like the fact that all of them sort of ranged between 29 and 34 minutes with credits, it was like, why? And I don't remember whether season 1 had like short episodes like this or whether season 1 had longer ones. I don't know, but it was just really short episodes, and I'm like, some of it I want more, some of it I want less. And again, it was just like, why? Another thing that I didn't really particularly love, and I kind of talked about this in the non-spoiler thoughts, was like, while the episodes didn't start tying together in a to-be-continued type of way until like the penultimate episode, but also kind of before that, they were all still sort of loosely tied together, especially with like the characters. You know, we had Hulk Happy Hogan, and he showed up in the 1602 episode, and it was like, well, I didn't realize we were carrying that thread through from the Christmas episode, but okay. And then like Wanda summoning Peggy type thing, it's like, well, that was the 1602 episode, and it's like, oh, okay, so that's where we're going. The whole Kahori episode, like, needed to be watched in order to like understand like the final episode. It was like, okay. And then like, I don't know whether like Hela being queen in whatever episode it was, 1602 or whatever, whether that was part of the 10 Rings episode, but it was like, there was a lot of things about these characters, and to a lesser extent plot points, where it's like, okay, well, if I didn't see a previous episode, I'm sitting there lost. Like, if I didn't watch the Christmas episode, and I watched the 1602 episode, and I see Happy Hogan, who is like Harold Hogan or whatever, but like, and he's all hulking out in like Purple Hulk, I'm like, well, how did that happen? And it's like, oh, I had to watch the Christmas episode. It's just, I kind of love where season 1, it was like, you could pick and choose episodes. This one felt like you really had to sort of sit down and watch them all, and it's like, I don't know if that was the way to go. But yeah, that's about all I got to say about that. Overall, season 2 of What If was a fun ride all around. I really enjoyed almost all the episodes. I love that they sort of strayed away from this is a retelling of fill-in-the-blank MCU movies, and just sort of took these characters and put them in random situations. Made it a lot more fun, and I think made it a lot less predictable in a way. Like, I don't know. I really enjoyed that. I hope they kind of continue down that path versus, well, if one thing changed in this movie, this is what happens. So yeah, I really enjoyed season 2. And now I'm going to do the episode ranking. So for this, I'm probably going to dive more into my overall thoughts on What If. But yeah, basically we're going to go from my least favorite to my favorite. We have 9 episodes to go through, so let's just go. In 9th place, I have What If Iron Man crashed into the Grandmaster. Now, admittedly, I went into this episode and I was like, I'm not going to really love this episode, because I don't love a majority of these characters. But I wanted to love this episode. This was the Gamora episode that I think was supposed to air in season 1, and for some reason or another it didn't. And I was like, okay, so this is the Gamora episode. This is gonna be fun. Like, you know, whatever. It was not. And I think the plot of this episode was just meh. Like, I think if the plot was really good, and I think if they had, like, focused on Gamora trying to kill Tony and the whole Thanos angle, this episode could have been really good. Like, I think it really could have been really good. But that is not what happened. Instead, it's Tony trying to fix Sakaar, question mark? And leave it better than he arrived. And I'm just like, I don't care. I don't care. Visually though, it was fun. I really loved like the racetrack scene, even though it took up way too much time and served like next to no purpose. I really did love that. It looked really cool. It felt like a video game that I would very much like to play. But here's the thing with that. It does not make a great TV show. It makes a great video game. And so I was like, okay, why is 90% of this episode this race? Like, it was so messed up. But anyways, what really bothered me is, like, this was tied for the longest episode of the season. Like, I think if this episode had been shorter, I think I would have been a little bit more okay with it. It's just, it felt like 34 minutes with credits and all that. So I will give it that. But it was like, it felt like nothing. And it's like, why do we have this? Like, why is this so long? Like, I don't know. Like, I didn't particularly love this episode. I tried not to go into it with a bias. I tried to go in thinking I'm going to love it, and it just, there was no plot. If there was a plot, it might have been salvageable, but there was no plot. No plot. So, therefore, What If Iron Man Crashed into the Grandmaster is in 9th place. In 8th place, I have What If Nebula Joined the Nova Corps. It was predictable, but fun. I mean, I will say that. It was a fun episode, even though it was extremely predictable. Like, it's like, oh yeah, like, here's all these people, and are they to be trusted? No. But Gamora, how am I getting the sisters mixed up? But Nebula's like, oh, I trust them. I'm like, girl, no. Don't trust them. They're lying to you. They're manipulating you. But yeah, it was predictable. It was fun. It was a very slow start, though. I was like, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. But then by the time the whole betrayal happened, I was like, yes. Unfortunately, basically, once the betrayal happened, that was the end of the episode. So, yay! Although Nebula forming the Guardians was fun, I think, like, having Nebula, Groot, Kor, Howard the Duck. Like, I'm like, you know what? This is fun. I can get behind this. But also Nebula taking up Yondu's mantle. I'm like, you know what? I like this. I like this angle. But, yeah, unfortunately, it was a case of once the ending hit, that's where it started getting good, and I'm like, okay. So yeah, What If Nebula Joined the Nova Corps is in 8th place. But in 7th place, I have What If Strange Supreme Intervened. Strange Supreme is back, guys. He's back, and he's evil again. Cool. So, one thing that I did love about this episode, this was like the last episode. And so there was like the Marvel crawl at the beginning of all the other episodes. It was like short. It was really short. And then in this episode, they're like, no, we're doing the full-on Marvel crawl with the animated What If characters from like season 1 and season 2. I'm like, okay, I love this. I love this. I loved seeing Kahori again. She was great. I loved her. Peggy and Kahori team up against Strange Supreme. All great. all the powerful beings just literally like giving Peggy and Kahori their weapons as they're like falling to their death was kind of fun. It's just like you get like, you know, Hela's helmet and the 10 rings, and it's like, oh, I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I really did. It was bizarre, for sure. It was predictable. Strange Supreme intervening. I mean, did we or did we not call that he was going to be evil again? Of course we did. But I had fun with it. I really did. I really did have fun with this. But it was what it was. Then in 6th place, I have What If Happy Hogan Saved Christmas? Now, I love Happy Hogan. Happy Hogan, honestly, in terms of like minor MCU characters, I'm like, Happy Hogan is like top tier. Like, I love him. And I am a sucker for a Christmas special. So, this had all the makings of amazing. I really loved, like, you know, the Darcy, Maria, and Happy sort of team up. Maria Hill is still alive in this, so can we be in this universe from now on? Because Secret Invasion, I still have not forgiven you. Justin Hammer, not one of my favorite villains. Honestly, pretty lackluster if you ask me, but honestly, for this episode, he was kind of the perfect fit to be the villain to, like, come back in. Like, yeah. It was the shortest episode. But honestly, I think it kind of worked, being the shortest episode. I think if it had gone on longer, it would have been too much. So, I mean, I really did enjoy it. It's not my favorite, but I did enjoy it. And honestly, I will probably be pulling this up from now on every Christmas, because it was just an entertaining watch. In 5th place, I have What If Kahori Reshaped the World. Now, I was not prepared to like this episode. Like, a whole episode, aside from the very end with Strange Supreme. A whole episode with all new characters, not a familiar face in sight. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to love this. Like, I honestly don't know if I'm going to love this. But you know what? I really did. I love Kahori. She's amazing. I love that aside from the Watcher and then like Strange Supreme at the end, there is no English spoken whatsoever. Like, it was a lot of reading subtitles, but I really, really loved that because it made it feel more authentic. Like, I was not prepared to love this episode. I was prepared to have this one, like, bottom. I was, like, thinking, I'm gonna have this at the bottom below the Iron Man and Grandmaster one. Like, I was like, this is not gonna be a good episode. And then I'm like, I was very pleasantly surprised by this episode. I really loved it. Yeah. So, What If Kahori Reshaped the World is in 5th place. In 4th place, I have What If Peter Quill Attacked Earth's Mightiest Heroes? Yes, we could have pulled from season 1 with Ego approaching adult Peter Quill, but it probably wouldn't have ended the same way. But anytime you give me Peggy Carter in any form, I'm happy. I love Captain Carter. I do. I love Captain Carter. Give me all things Captain Carter at this point. But honestly, I was kind of surprised to see Peggy in, like, do I want to say director, agent type role? Like, seeing Peggy be Peggy. Like, it's been so long since we've seen Peggy be Peggy. Like, in any sort of substantial form. Because, I mean, we did see it in Endgame and all that. But, like, in a substantial form, it's been so long since we've seen Peggy be Peggy. And I'm like, you know what? I love it. I love it. I love it. Also, if you know me, it's no secret that Peter Quill is not my favorite character. Like, honestly, can't stand him. But I actually love this version of him. Like, I think, like, being young, being innocent, being like manipulated, being sort of like the scapegoat almost. Like, I love it. I love it. And like him and Hope being friends, adorable. Love it. I love also minor thing, getting to see Peggy and Howard's reaction to Bucky being the Winter Soldier, because we never got to see that in the MCU. Like, we got to see sort of Steve's reaction to Bucky being the Winter Soldier, but we never got to see Peggy and Howard's reaction to that, so that was a lot of fun to sort of just see them be like, this is weird. Like, I loved it. Also, the team up, the Avengers, is that what we're going with? That was an amazing team up, and I kind of loved it. It was a fun episode, start to finish. I really did enjoy it. So yeah, What If Peter Quill Attacked Earth's Mightiest Heroes is in 4th place. But in 3rd place, I have What If Hela Found the 10 Rings. Now, I love Hela. By far, best part of Thor Ragnarok was Hela. I'm going to say it. Maybe unpopular opinion, I don't care. I'm rolling with it. Hela was the best part of Ragnarok. Hela, honestly, probably one of my favorite villains. And also kind of making her powerless on Earth was kind of a nice touch. It was very reminiscent of, like, Thor. During, I think Thor, if I'm remembering correctly. But also, like, having her go to Ta Lo and tying her in with, like, the 10 rings was such a bizarre situation. And I was kind of here for it. But we got to see her learn a new power in Ta Lo. Like, the great executioner found peace. I love it. She's all in white now. Very different from the all in black look. Having her team up with Wenwu against Odin. Blast. Love it. Yeah, just all around, all hail Queen Hela. That's what I'm saying to that. Yeah, I really did enjoy this episode. So yeah, What If Hela Found the 10 Rings is in 3rd place. But in 2nd place, I have What If the Avengers Assembled in 1602. This was such a bizarre episode. Like, why 1602? Like, why 1602? I don't think I ever really figured that out. Why 1602? What was the significance? But it was a lot of fun. And you know what? Hela, still queen, if only for a brief time. I gotta give it to her. She's still queen. It picks up where the Hydra Stomper episode left off, which I loved because I wasn't sure whether we were going to pick that up in this season or another season, or we weren't going to pick it up at all. So I'm really happy that we did pull on that thread because, I mean, look, I love Captain Carter. I love Black Widow. I will get to that when I get to my number 1 pick. But I also love Scarlet Witch. Clearly. So having like Captain Carter and Scarlet Witch, I'm like, yes, this is everything I want. We also got to see Peggy have a more defined Union Jack on her outfit, which she did not have in the Hydra Stomper episode. Like, she kind of had like, it wasn't like full on Union Jack in the Hydra Stomper episode. So it was really cool to see her kind of go back to that. Steve Rogers is Robin Hood. Okay. Happy Hogan is still Purple Hulk, like I said. You gotta follow the thread. You gotta watch them all. And then Steve is the Future Man that they were looking for from, I don't know, is it MCU canon future? Like, I don't know. Like, he was kind of talking about events that happened within, like, our MCU, but, like, I can't figure out whether he's supposed to be from, like, our MCU time or a different time or a different universe. Like, I don't know. But, it was a bizarre episode. It was, but I still loved it. So, What If the Avengers Assembled in 1602 is in 2nd place. But we come to the 1st place, to no surprise to anybody that knows me, is what if Captain Carter fought the Hydra Stomper? Peggy and Natasha team up. I'm just like, anytime you give me Peggy and Natasha teaming up, I am here for it. I am here for it. I love it. Secretary Bucky, like, dude, good for you. But then we got Mama Melina back, and she's like fighting Natasha, and I'm like, this is fun. This is what I want. When the Watcher said that he doesn't do sequels, but not every universe has a Captain Peggy Carter, I was like, I'm gonna love this. I'm gonna love this. I'm gonna love this. Because this was basically, I want to say, the only episode that really pulled on a thread from last season. And I love it so much. Now, this was also the episode where we really got strong parallels to Winter Soldier when, you know, we see that Peggy is driving the car to pick up Natasha. It was very reminiscent of the scene in Captain America Winter Soldier when Natasha's driving the car to pick up Steve. Tying the Winter Soldier to the Red Room, it just makes sense. It makes sense, and I love it. I mean, honestly, I love it. Melina being evil, I mean, I predicted every which way in which Melina could be evil in the Black Widow movie, and we never got that, so I feel vindicated by this episode. Melina was evil. But, yeah, and then this was sort of the start of bringing Peggy into the Wanda Maximoff Scarlet Witch story, which was the 1602 story. I feel like, in many ways, this explored the Red Room and its, like, training methods more than Black Widow did. I don't know what that says about Black Widow, but having that whole town of, like, robots being, like, the typical American families and everything like that, I'm like, this would have been perfect to see in live action Black Widow, just, like, really, really bizarre out there methods and like really getting to see like the training methods, and we didn't get that. So, you know, I feel vindicated by this episode because 1, Melina is evil. 2, this feels like a much better version of the Black Widow movie than we got. So, yeah, that is my ranking of the episodes. As always, it's just my personal preferences. I know nobody else is going to agree with me. So, let me know what you thought of What If Season 2. Did you enjoy it more than Season 1? Did you enjoy it less? Did you enjoy it about the same? And also, let me know what your episode ranking is. If you don't want to go through all the episodes, just let me know which one was your favorite, which one was your least favorite. I'm really curious to hear what everyone's thoughts are in the comments down below. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you all liked it, and I will see you next time. Bye!